How's it going, guys? Back with another video, and today we are ranking every single Karate Kid film in the entire franchise. Now, of course, Cobra Kai, I gotta mention it because a lot of the success of this franchise and why it's lived on and why it's made some of these other movies better is because of this show, and I've immensely enjoyed the show. I think the first like 3 seasons are super engaging, and the later stages of the series still enjoyed, but it became ridiculously over the top to like a Fast and Furious level. But you know what? They were short episodes, and they left a lot of cliffhangers, and they made it just like so binge-worthy to watch. The last season, definitely the most disappointing of the franchise. But I had a lot of fun watching this, and now let's talk about some of the movies that this series enhanced. And we'll start with the worst film in the franchise. I rewatched some of these, obviously, because it's been some time, and the worst film of this franchise did not take much consideration. When I look at this franchise, I think of, the mentors that are involved in teaching the said karate. I think about the heart. I think about the technical aspects, the acting, the fight sequences. I kind of try to consider everything that makes Karate Kid a good movie. And Karate Kid Legends was the dullest movie in this entire franchise. To me, this was the worst because the writing was completely atrocious. Every single movie in this franchise has had one story, whether it was good or it was bad. This movie has 3 stories, and they're all rushed. I mean, the first half is a kid just trying to fit in, and he doesn't want to learn karate because his mom is against it, or more so it's kung fu because he came from the school of Mr. Han. So, and then it's more about teaching the father boxing and everything, and I'm like, what is going on here? How did this become a Rocky movie? Like, what's going on? And then we finally get to the karate because we're combining different schools. So it's like they really struggled to try to combine both elements of the original karate and, Cobra Kai with the 2010 reboot and try to make it into one. It's like, it's like they want to do it for nostalgia, for obviously the money that it could bring. And because Jackie Chan's like this amazing cultural icon to the martial arts genre. But it just didn't feel like they had any ideas how to make a good Karate Kid movie, so they just threw all the ideas on the canvas, and this is the result. It's just a jumbled mess that doesn't have heart. The humor hardly sticks. The reasoning for half of these characters being here don't make sense. They all feel shoehorned in here. Everything is rushed to fit that 90-minute runtime, and it hurts it. It hurts it tremendously. If they had let this movie breathe just a little bit, got rid of some of the repetitive bits, or developed their villains a little bit better, if they were cartoonish or not, it would have been a slightly more watchable movie. But because everything is just rushed for the sake of just spitting this movie out, to me this feels like a hollow film that doesn't need to exist, and it's not filmed very well. Like, I don't like the music in this film. I don't like the cinematography. I think the editing is terrible, and it really undercuts the choreography in the film. And the main character of Lee, he's fine. He does have some charm, especially with the girl that he likes. But they don't focus enough on that. They spend so much more time on her father or some of these other characters in the film, and it doesn't come off natural, and it just feels very forced. So for me, there's no reason for me to ever revisit this movie because there's 5 other movies in this franchise. There's a whole TV series, Cobra Kai. Why would I ever come back to this? And number 5 is probably most people's pick for the worst Karate Kid film, and that is The Next Karate Kid with Hilary Swank. Now, I'm not going to defend this movie. I think it's a bad movie, but I feel like this movie has slightly more charm. It's more slowly paced. It develops its story a little bit better. There's just a lot of really weird ideas in this movie and turns that it takes. Like, at one point we have monks dancing and they're going bowling, and we have a very angsty Hilary Swank just being moody the entire movie. It's not good. It's definitely not good, but like I said, Hilary Swank's acting, whether you like her character or not, is good. you have to consider that she did win an Oscar like 4 years later. Like, this didn't just happen. Like, she could act already then. So her acting, despite maybe weaker writing, is still pretty good in this film. Pat Morita is great as per usual. His wisdom is always what I'm looking for in these kind of Karate Kid movies. That's what was missing in Legends. You know, by the time we got Jackie Chan, it was just a little too late. Like, we just spent the entire movie without him. So Pat Morita being here the majority of the movie definitely helped this movie out quite a bit. The music isn't bad. Obviously, each Karate Kid film tries to play music that fits that time period. This is a 90s film now, so obviously we're going to have more 90s music. The karate is at its minimal here, which is quite frustrating because I have to say this, but Ralph Macchio is extremely rigid in pretty much every single movie that he's been in. Despite how many years of training he's done, if he's done any, he's just I always thought he was acting. I've never felt like he actually knew karate. With Hilary Swank's character, she has more mobility, she has more flexibility, she has a few kicks in this movie, and I'm like, I'm sold on her being like a karate kid more so than Ralph Macchio. So the fact that they don't use her to do anything is quite frustrating. Instead, they're telling this more angsty story and her going to prom and then this police force that seems like the army in high school. And I'm like, what is this? Is this like a Rambo movie meets Karate Kid? Like, what's going on here? It's all over the place. Logically, this movie doesn't make sense, but it still has some heart. It has that 90s charm. Cinematography is still better than the last movie, which is Legends, and it's just a sliver better than Legends, but I don't think I'd ever return to it. I mean, Pat Morita's in it, but it's just like, it's another empty movie that has a bunch of side plots that never get developed. The romance is extremely forced and just like completely unnecessary, just lengthens the time of this movie. The pacing isn't great either. I do like it just a little bit more, but another bad movie. At number 4 is Karate Kid Part 3. I was considering a different movie for this slot, but ultimately the writing, I think, is the weakest part of this entire film. The characters are completely like cartoon characters. This movie is probably the most over-the-top Karate Kid film, and probably where they drew all their ideas for making Cobra Kai in the later stages of the series. So, John Silver, he's a fun character as much as he is a mustache-twirling, cigar-smoking character. He is an engaging character to follow. It's just the first half of this movie, it doesn't know what it's doing. I mean, we're doing rock climbing, Ralph Macchio is yelling half the movie. At one point, Mr. Miyagi cries in the movie. There's, again, barely any karate in this movie, or any, like, even mention of just karate until, like, the later stages of the movie. So when you're watching something that's just kind of boring and just going through the motions just to fill time, it doesn't feel like a very engaging movie. So that's why it's at number 4. At number 3 is Karate Kid Part 2. To me, this is a much better shot film. It has a better score. Like, the technical aspects are better in this movie. It's probably one of the better Karate Kid movies in terms of its visual appearance. But story still kind of weird. Like, we go to Okinawa. Like, this just feels like an odd thing to do after a Karate Kid movie. I mean, I'm glad they didn't just copy and paste the formula of the first movie, which is kind of what the third movie did, which is oddly enough why the third movie feels like the second movie. But it's because it picks up like a year after the events of the first movie. But the second film is quite interesting because, again, it is focusing on Mr. Miyagi. They're in a different setting. It's definitely interesting, but Ralph Macchio has nothing to do in the movie until like the last part of the movie. Like, he does nothing. I think finding out more about Mr. Miyagi is what kept this movie alive. And, you know, when you watch the first film, you do kind of want to watch the second film. So, as much as it's number 3 on this list. It's not necessarily that great of a Karate Kid film. It's just one of those supplementary films you watch because you like the original. So as much as the technical aspects are good, it's a movie that really takes its time to tell its story. It does feel a bit uneven because it doesn't have enough material for everybody in the movie. And number 2 is The Karate Kid, the 2010 reboot. Now, a lot of people usually have this a little bit lower on this list. I don't know why they usually hate on this movie, but technically speaking, this is one of the best looking Karate Kid films and probably has the best action out of all of them. So, you know, Jaden Smith obviously maybe isn't the most likable kid. I don't know why people like instantly hate the guy, but for his age, I think he did really well in the role, especially doing all the action sequences. Jackie Chan obviously is the best part of this film. I really liked him in the role of Mr. Han, which I feel like he's even more frustrating because you watch his character, Mr. Han, in this film, and then you compare it to his character that he reprises the role of in Legends, and they seem like two completely different characters. Like, what's going on there? Like, you know, it almost seems like Jackie Chan showed up to be in Rush Hour 4 in Karate Kid Legends, and I generally think this is probably the best you could probably do with a story that we've already known, obviously, a classic like Karate Kid, and just kind of rebooting it, remodernizing it, and telling the same story and tweaking a few things here or there. I think this is the best you could possibly do without insulting the original film, which for some reason people still felt insulted. When I watched it, I enjoyed it. I did keep thinking, this movie's trying to be kind of like the first movie, but you know, like, I accepted it. I thought it did a lot of it really well. Now, it's not karate, it's kung fu. There is some copying and pasting, but there's enough changes here to make it its own thing. I even played around with the idea that maybe this is my favorite Karate Kid film simply because of the action and the camera work. I feel like it's a pretty well edited film, and it being a more newer Karate Kid film, it doesn't have the limitations, obviously, of production of the original Karate Kid film. But, you know, it's missing that heart, it's missing that charm, that 80s look. And I quite frankly, I just wanted that from a Karate Kid film. And then the characters, and then the one-liners, and you know, it's just like, it's missing that. So that is what put it at number 2. I feel like the romance is unearned in this movie, but you know, I still give this movie a pass. I think it's a solid movie for what it is, given how much love and nostalgia there is for the original film. You know, it's kind of surprising this movie is as good as it is. So I can't hate this movie too much. It is the second best Karate Kid film in the franchise. Which leads me to, of course, the number 1 film, which is obviously the Karate Kid film. There are no other films in this franchise. If it weren't for this film, this is what set everything into motion. The characters are likable. The romance is enjoyable, despite the fact they do nothing with it in the later films. The music is good. The mentorship of Pat Morita and the score and the cinematography, you know, it's all good. It has this 80s quality to it, and it feels like such a nostalgic film, even if you didn't grow up watching it. It feels like a product of its time, and you know, that charm is what really lingers with you. You know, the karate is easily one of the weakest aspects of this film. In fact, if you really look into it, like, LaRusso is not good at karate. He has no reason to win. But it's the characters and the underdog story that kind of elevates it despite the lackluster karate. Because a lot of the people in this movie have better karate skills than LaRusso. But, you know, nonetheless, it's the characters, it's the heart, it's the music, it's, you know, this ultimate underdog story that is what sells this movie. Because every other film in this franchise, it's missing that. It's missing that charm. It's missing that magic. At this point, we already know, you know, he's won the O Valley tournament. Like, it's not so much of this underdog story. So when you watch this first film, this is the beginning, the very beginning, the roots of this story. And that's what I think makes it so satisfying to watch. It's a smaller scale film. Obviously, you know, it's not going to have the best choreography as something you would see in Cobra Kai, for example. Even something like Karate Kid Legends, you know, how many years and how much technology we have, how much more talent we have, how much of a bigger budget this is, and you still can't get the action right, you know? Sometimes it's not even about the action at the end of the day. Like, again, this movie does not have karate for a good chunk of the movie until much later on, but it's the characters, obviously, the story and the mystique and wonder of Mr. Miyagi. Who is he and how is he going to train this guy is what makes it so charming and interesting to watch. After all these years later, you know, I don't think it's like this perfect movie. I grew up watching it, I've always liked it, but over the years I've grown to like it a little bit less than what I originally thought of it. But nonetheless, I still think that this is a super lighthearted film that anyone can enjoy. And the movies after, they're okay. If you're into the first movie, maybe you get sucked in and you start watching all these other films. Despite, you know, other movies coming in and doing some things better, ultimately the first film is what laid the foundation, and I don't think that foundation has been really shaken by any other film. I mean, the 2010 Karate Kid film, I think, was the closest to come to trying to top that first film. So that is my ranking of the Karate Kid franchise. Thank you so much for watching. Please do comment your thoughts down below. I'd love to see some rankings of what your favorite Karate Kid films are and where they stack up, especially with this new film that just came out. Please do comment that down below. Make sure to hit that thumbs up down below as well, and that subscription bar down below. And as always, I will see you guys later.